Why are there not more people talking about one of the biggest peacetime crimes in modern European history? This is not just a minor issue or an isolated incident. It is a deeply rooted problem that has been festering for years, largely ignored by those in power and the general public alike. The truth needs to be heard, and it needs to be heard now. A Muslim man in the UK raped a 13-year-old girl and was allowed to walk free after claiming ignorance of the law. This shocking case is part of a deeply disturbing pattern of systemic child sexual abuse and cover-up. For decades, young white girls, often from vulnerable backgrounds, have been groomed, exploited and raped by mostly Pakistani and Bangladeshi Muslim men. A 2014 inquiry estimated that 1,400 girls were serially raped in Rotherham alone, with authorities at all levels complicit in covering up these crimes to avoid being labelled racist. Social workers, police, counsellors, MPs and even the media turned a blind eye. Victims were often in care homes or without parental support. They were lured with gifts, food, rides and drugs. Meanwhile, some argue that certain interpretations of Islamic texts have been used to justify this horrific exploitation. This is not just a scandal, it's a call to action. Elon Musk recently criticized Prime Minister Keir Starmer for failing to tackle the issue during his tenure as Director of Public Prosecutions. Despite government assurances of action, many believe justice remains elusive for the victims. The scale of this issue is staggering. We're not talking about a handful of cases, we're talking about thousands of young lives irreparably damaged. The victims, often from disadvantaged backgrounds, were easy targets for these predators. They were systematically groomed, manipulated and abused, while those who were supposed to protect them turned a blind eye. The judicial system, which should have been a beacon of hope and justice, failed these young girls miserably. The case of the Muslim man who walked free after claiming ignorance of the law is a glaring example of this failure. It sends a chilling message that such heinous acts can go unpunished, further emboldening the perpetrators. This is not just about one man or one case, it's about a systemic failure that has allowed such atrocities to continue unchecked. The authorities, in their misguided attempt to avoid being labeled racist, have allowed countless young girls to suffer unimaginable horrors. This is a gross miscarriage of justice that demands immediate and decisive action. The public outcry is growing, but it is not enough. We need more voices, more action and more accountability. The government must take concrete steps to ensure that such failures are never repeated. This includes holding those responsible accountable, providing support and justice for the victims, and implementing measures to prevent such abuses in the future. The victims deserve justice and the perpetrators must be held accountable. This is not just a matter of legal responsibility, it is a moral imperative. We owe it to these young girls and to society as a whole to ensure that justice is served and that such atrocities are never allowed to happen again. This is a call to action. We must demand accountability for those responsible and justice for the victims. This is not just a scandal, it's a call to action. The time for complacency is over. We must act now to ensure that justice is served and that such horrors are never repeated.